Freeman, and it's incomplete. Or did he make the catch at the 15? Yeah. What are they going to rule it? He caught it? Touchdown! He did what?
In the end zone, it is caught for the win! Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. Total disbelief at Ford Field.
Rushes on, has time. Looking, throws, middle, got his man! Breaking free to the 50. He may go all the way to the 20 down the right side. And there's Randall Cobb to the 5, to the end zone, to the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Green and Golden Boys Packers podcast, the podcast for Packer fans living inside enemy territory. I am Charles, and with me as always is Marcus.
Hey everybody.
And Marcus, the Packers may have just made their best case yet for why they deserve a first-round bye and the number one overall seed in the NFC with a convincing 40-14 victory over the now 10-5 Tennessee Titans. What are your just initial overall thoughts on the game?
Initial thought is complete game for the most part. I mean, we haven't really seen it happen this season. I mean, the Packers have had some convincing wins, but they've had lapses on defense or special teams or a stagnant offense in the third and fourth quarter. But, I mean, by all accounts, this is the most complete game we've seen the entire team play. Minus the extra point missed by Mason Crosby. I mean, if the Packers can continue playing like this for the rest of the year, the one regular season game and into the playoffs, I agree. There's no reason to think that this team shouldn't be the number one seed and shouldn't be hosting the NFC Championship, end of January.
For sure. Yeah, I think this by far is the most impressive win, like you just mentioned. And they did it in a imperfect scenario. Obviously, Lambeau in December is where we like to be, where Aaron likes to be. But still, right, there was still a lot of snow, as we could tell, as the yard markers had to be shoveled off every now and then. And the snow really didn't seem to affect them. And that's all that the broadcasters were able to talk about. But, I mean, it was true, right? Davante was still making his cuts. You didn't see anyone really slip on either side. Obviously, I was focusing more on our on the Packers, but it was just nice to see, a convincing win, and they did it in a couple, different ways. So, just kind of recapping what Green Bay did offensively. First, I want to make a side note. Davante Adams joins just Randy Moss and Chris Carter as the only three players now with over 100 catches and 16 plus touchdown passes in a season.
Wow.
Mind you, Davante missed 2 games of the season already, and we still got one more week to play. So that's pretty impressive. Yep.
I was gonna say, sorry, I just agreeing with you basically. I mean, what he's been able to do this season, not even playing in every game, is historic. I mean, the combination of Rodgers and Adams this year has been a pleasure to watch, and something that, first of all, let's not take it for granted. You know what I mean? Let's understand that we're in kind of the good old days right now, and what we're seeing right now is unbelievable, historic, like I said, and let's just try to enjoy it. That's all I wanted to say.
100%. And, there are too many players that have like awesome, great games to focus on each and every one, but that obviously was a milestone that we had to throw out there. We seemingly talk about, obviously, Aaron and Davante each and every week for obvious reasons. Aaron, for example, only threw 4 incompletions and that pick. But, another hell of a game by Rodgers. And like you said, don't take it for granted, because this is just, like everyone has been saying the last few weeks, it's clearly between Aaron and Patrick Mahomes for MVP. And Mahomes and the Chiefs, actually, we can talk about this later, they showed that they're human, and they didn't have a great game. So I think Aaron, is kind of the front runner at this point for MVP. But I think the more noteworthy things that I saw offensively is A.J. Dillon, right? I mean, I think he had more carries just about on Sunday night than he had all season. With 124 rushing yards, his first 2 touchdowns, his first 2 attempted Lambeau leaps. Are you ready to give him credit for those 2 Lambeau leaps?
I mean, we'll call him Lambo leap attempts, but I'm not going to give him too much. I mean, he's got a really heavy lower half. It was snowy and slippery up there, so I think
Yeah.
if he'd be able to get his hands up there and get some traction, he would have been able to jump up there no problem. But
No fans to pull him in.
no fans to pull him in, hold him up exactly. So he
Yeah.
needed a little boost that second one by Alan Lazard. But hey, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna worry about that too much. I mean, if you can pound it out the way you did in that game Sunday night, I don't care if you I don't care if you need 5 guys to lift you up into that Lambeau front section.
For sure, yeah. And I think A.J. Dillon's style of running was exactly what that game called for, right? I mean, Aaron Jones is Aaron Jones, and I'm not ready to dethrone him by any means. Like, I'm not suggesting that at all when I say this, so please hear me correctly. Aaron Jones is still our starting running back. But in a wet, slippery game where every yard matters, I mean, foreshadowing to next week's game, I think A.J. Dillon is going to have a spot on this roster for injury reasons, but also for strategic reasons in next week's game against the Bears as well. But just all around, heck of a job for A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones had a heck of a game too. He had a couple huge runs, one of which I think he stepped out of bounds, don't you?
He sure did. I mean, they went over this. I mean, there was a line judge, 5 yards from that. He should have spotted it, and I know all the Vikings fans are going to be like, "Oh, you stepped out of the ball. Packers get a call again and give him the game." Well, okay. I in this case, I totally agree. That was a blown call by the official, and unfortunately for the Titans, it was on the Packers sideline, so they didn't have anyone over there to kind of say anything or see anything. And the Packers smartly went up to the line of scrimmage, ran another play, and were able to get away with that one. But yeah,
wouldn't that right there just give you reason to throw a flag just because, especially with the score the way it was, right? I think another touch, that next touchdown that we got kind of tilted it really in the Packers' favor. Right, it was an answer to their first touchdown, I think, or something like that. But or the second touchdown. But them quickly getting up to the line, wouldn't you as the Titans coach just throw that red flag, even if there was a question about it? Just because I feel like whenever you see an offense quickly try and get off a snap, it's because we're trying to get away with something.
I mean, yes. I mean, that's probably right. But I mean, at the same time, it wasn't something that anyone on that sideline could really see. I mean, if it was like a questionable penalty or if they thought there was a hold or something like that, that's probably something they had visibility in. But, him stepping out once on the far sideline, I just don't know that that the coaching staff really knew what was going on in that instance. And again, that's something that they shouldn't have to rely on a challenge for. I mean, that was something that was right in front of the official, should have been called, but wasn't, and the Packers, got the benefit of it. But that said, the Packers put up 40 points. I don't think even if they had called that out of bounds, they still probably had 35 yards to go at that point. The way we were moving the ball, I think we still score a touchdown on that possession, and I don't think it matters that much in the grand scheme of the game.
Yeah, agreed. We'll talk a little bit more about refs here later on, but just to kind of wrap up the offense, Corey Lindsey was back. That was a surprise to me, especially because of him just coming off of IR, missing the last 3 games. And not by the time that game started, we didn't necessarily need the win against Tennessee. Obviously, we want it and we take it. But I was surprised to see Corey back, so that must mean that he's more than 100%. David Bakhtiari, at first it seemed like another late flag in the favor of the Packers, but then they showed that replay to save our second drive. The illegal hands to the face, and David just getting after whoever committed that foul, not once but twice. On that same play, you got to give him a shout out just because the offensive line protected Aaron obviously last week, but that was a huge momentum swing early in the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember watching that and just being, not knowing what they were calling at first, and then they showed the replay, and I'm like, hey, what do you know? Illegal hands to the face by the defense. So yeah, and then Bakhtiari continues to block and continues to work through that until the whistle, which is what you want to see out of your offensive line, obviously. But yeah, that was another one where Packers kind of lucked out on that call and were able to get. I shouldn't say lucked out; it was the right call. But
yep.
And honestly, it was a third down, wasn't it? Too. That would have been
It was 3rd and 10. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a stop for the Titans, and we were able to continue the drive. And there were, I think that's another thing we could talk about a lot is penalties during this game. Packers were barely penalized the entire game, and just really sound technically and did a great job just playing fundamental football and definitely took advantage.
Yep. And I even wonder if it was the second hands to the face, later in that play that really drew the flag. But overall, right, like I said, there are so many guys you can call out. Equinemius St. Brown got an awesome touchdown pass. Obviously, Aaron and Devontae did what they did. Everyone had to have a hell of a game. If you want to be nitpicky, maybe you can pick something. But I just, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I was just surprised that all that movement and design plays for Tavon Austin didn't really seem to amount to much, or didn't seem to fool, the Tennessee's defense, at least to my eye. Now, was it distracting them or setting up something, for A.J. Dillon or for, a quick out pass or something like that? It just, Tavon himself didn't have any, real big memorable plays that I can recall. Do you agree with me at all on that?
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Well, good.
And have nothing else
there you go. Well, defensively, it's the part. This is where I'm the most excited, right? I think offensively, we overperformed what I thought we could do. I thought we were capable of everything we did offensively. I think A.J. Dillon was the big surprise. But defensively, you and I were kind of questioning the true key to success against the Tennessee Titans. I took the more obvious route of saying we got to stop the number one running back, in the league. You had the more nuanced answer of saying, hey, no, this Tannehill guy can throw, and they got a young wide receiver that can really catch the ball. And, on both accounts, we were both kind of right. We held Derrick Henry to 98 rushing yards, which is obviously 2 yards under 100. But it felt like a really short 100 yards, if that makes sense. He only ran, I think, once for 11 yards, and that was his longest run of the game. The only reason why he had 100 yards is because they kept going back to him. It was a very not impressive night for Derrick Henry standards.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I'm extremely surprised that our defense was able to hold him under 100 yards. And that was on 23 carries. It wasn't like they just gave him 10 or 11 touches. You know what I mean? This was feeding him. And kudos to our defensive line, kudos to our inside linebackers to get pressure on Tannehill, to kind of keep Derrick Henry, keep him in check, and then kind of stop the play action. I think that's where they're successful a lot, is being able to feed Derrick Henry, and then on the 3rd and short, able to throw a quick pass to either a running back or somebody over the middle, and then just everyone's playing the run, so you kind of favor one side, or you load up the box and you give guys open behind you. And we kind of saw that work a little bit on that one play, and that Ryan Tannehill run where everybody favored, the fake handoff to Derrick Henry, and then he just ran untouched for 40 yards or whatever it was. Kudos to our defense and Mike Pettin for putting a good plan together, and the defense to be able to execute. I guess one surprise for me is I think the weather, as it started to snow in Green Bay, and I was in Green Bay to watch this game, so I could, you start to look outside and it starts to get, colder and the snow is falling, and you look on TV and it's starting to accumulate on the field. I felt like that was a better match for what the Titans wanted to do on offense than what the Packers have been good at this year. Not to say we don't have a dynamic running game, but Aaron Jones is a cut or bounce it to the outside and uses his speed and his ability to his lateral quickness, where Derrick Henry is a little bit more, ground and pound, not quickness right off the bat, but just his ability to gain speed. And I felt like that kind of worked. The weather was going to work in their favor more so than the Packers. Lo and behold, A.J. Dillon kind of is our answer to that, and he's able
equalizer.
to have